gonna make the locker lock animation. So we're gonna animate it to look like this, where it's gonna spin around, kind of do the combination, open up the lock, spin around, and close again. So it's gonna look like something like that when we're done. So I'm just gonna open up a new Blender folder. So I'm gonna do Control N and General, or you could go up to File, New. I'm just gonna turn on my keys so you can see at the bottom what I'm clicking, what I'm doing. So first thing, I'm gonna get rid of this cube. X, get rid of it. We're gonna start, we'll start in side view, or sorry, front view. We're gonna go number 1 on the keypad. And we're going to start by making a circle. So I'm gonna go Shift A, add a mesh circle. I'm gonna go down where it says add circle. I'm gonna make sure it's set to nothing. For this one, we don't want it filled with anything. We don't want a solid object. So I'm gonna go nothing. And I'm going to size it up a bit. So I'm gonna hit S and just make it a bit bigger. I'm just making mine like 8 squares wide. I'm gonna go into edit mode. Hitting tab is my shortcut, and then I'm going to kind of make the top, or make the width of the locker. So I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then I'm going to notice that it's going all wonky, so I'm going to hit Z to lock it into just going up the Z axis. I'm going to go up about 3 square grids. I'll click and set it there. And then what we're going to make is kind of the like outside ridge of the clock. So we're going to bring this circle in just a little bit. I'm going to go back to front view. I'm going to go into X-ray view as well. So toggle on the X-ray view. If I hit E and then S, I can bring in the new vertices just a little bit to make that little ridge. So you can see I've just kind of made the rim of the locker like that. I'm going to hit 1 to go back to front view. And then I'm going to bring these down to make a little kind of dip, and then we're going to make the face of the locker. So I'm going to hit E and Z, bring them down just a little bit. And so you can see we've got that ridge. And then I'm going to go E again to extrude more, and S to size so that I can make the circle part of the inside of the clock, or the lock. Now I'm going to merge all these. So if you have them all selected and you right click, go down to merge vertices at center, and then you've got the kind of face of the lock. I'm going to do the same thing for all the bottom ones to make kind of close the bottom of the lock. So if I go to side view again, I've got X-ray view on and a box selection tool. So I'm just going to select all these bottom ones and hit E to extrude, S to size, bring them in a bit. And you can see I've started at the bottom, but then I can merge them at the center. Merge vertices. So that was right click, merge vertices at center. Okay, we've got the basis of our lock. I'm just going to save. Oh, I haven't saved yet, so make sure you save it. I'm going to call it locker animation, and I already have one, but I'm going to resave it. There we go. Okay, so we saved it. You are going to now do some materials on this lock. So I'm going to separate the two parts of it, the face and then the outside. So I'm going to go to face selection, and I'm going to select all these right here. So I just drew a box around those. Make sure I don't get the rest. And then the shortcut to separate them is P, and you choose selection. And so now I've got 2 different things. I've got the face of the clock and then the outside. So start with, I'm going to go to object mode real quick. So I just clicked on the face to make sure I've got the face. So I'm going to start with that. Materials tab down here, and new. And I'm going to change the base color to like a black color. Now I can't see it because I didn't change the view, so I'm going to change the view to the material preview. There we go. Okay, I'm also going to change the metallic because I want it to be kind of like a metal, so I'm going to bring that up a bit. I'm going to make it a little more shiny and a little less rough. So I just increase the metallic, increase the specular, and decrease the rough. And then my mouse is stuck. There we go. And then you can see it's kind of Yeah, got that shiny kind of metal look. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to do the same to the outside circle. So materials, new. I'm going to make the base color a little more kind of gray, and then increase the metallic, increase the specular, decrease the rough, make it really shiny. There we go. I'm also going to shade it smooth, so with it selected, right click, shade smooth. Ooh, it's really shiny. There we go. So we've got the materials on the lock. I'm going to save it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the numbers. So I'm going to go into top view, and we're going to add text. So in object mode with nothing else selected, if you had something else selected, they might link together. So nothing selected. I'm going to go Shift A and add text. And then in order to change what the text says, because you don't want it to say text, you want it to say 0 for the first one, you have to go to edit mode, and then you can backspace and type in 0. Now the reason we can't see it is because I believe it's under, so it's right now on the bottom. So I'm just going to go and decide, not click one, I'm going to go into object mode, then I'm going to go into side view, and I'm just going to move this way up. I'll scroll around a little bit, and there you can see that now it's kind of on top. Okay, I'm going to now move this kind of into place and size it. So I'll size it first, size it down. That looks good to me. And then I'm going to move it. I think I moved it up on accident, so let's see. Yeah, I moved it way down. So way back up there, kind of right on the surface. There we go. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate that to make one for the number 15 that we'll put over here. So the shortcut is Shift D. Duplicated it, moved it over here. Right about there's good. I'm going to switch to edit mode, backspace, and type 15. Then I'm going to go back into object mode, duplicate that one, move it down, back into edit mode, and type in 30, back to object mode, duplicate it, move this over here, edit mode, and change that to 45. And I'll just go back to object mode. There we go. So we've got numbers, we've got a lock, the numbers are in place on top of the lock. I'm going to save it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make little ticks to go around the outside. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to add a cube, and just to make this a little easier, I'm going to situate my cursor, my 3D cursor, right up here where I want the first cube to be, and then that way the cube will just add itself right there. So I moved my cursor. I'm just going to move back to selection so I don't accidentally move it. Shift A, mesh, cube. And definitely don't want it that big, so right away I'm going to resize it way down. And I'm going to size it in a little bit, so I'm going to hit S and then X just to make it narrower. There, that actually looks pretty good. Move it over just a little touch over that way. There, looks great. We've got one tick. I'm also going to move it down because I scrolled to the side and saw that it was up a little bit. So G, Z, bring it kind of back down so it looks like it's right on top of the lock. Okay, now we're going to make a really quick move that can make this move all the way around the outside of the clock or the locker. First thing though is in order to use this tool that we're going to use, we have to have the cursor situated where we want it to, where we want the thing to spin around. So in this case, we want it right in the center. So I'm going to move my cursor right about there, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we can fix it later. Okay, now you're going to go back to edit mode. You're going to go down to the spin tool. So this little puzzle or little pie piece thing. We're going to change the step number up here in the top left corner. We're going to change it to 60 because that's how many times we want this cube to be replicated in a circle, because we're going to have 60 ticks going from 0 up to 60. So then you're going to grab this, so you can start spinning, and you'll see all these little ticks appearing. And if I bring it right back around, you'll see it should have worked out perfectly. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to get out of the spin tool just by selecting the box selection tool again. There we go. Beautiful. Next thing we're going to add is we're going to add the little spinner in the center. So it works out really well. We've got the cursor right there. We're going to go in edit mode, or sorry, in object mode. Make sure you deselect. Oh, I moved the cursor. Make sure you deselect everything by clicking away from it. And then you're going to go add a mesh circle. And this time we're going to change the fill type of the circle to Ngon. Now you can't see mine because it's, it looks like it's right under the surface there. So I'm just going to do GZ, bring it up a little bit. And I'm going to make sure it's kind of sitting right on the surface. There we go. I'm going to make mine a little smaller. So hit S to resize it. That looks good. And then I'm going to go into edit mode. And I'm going to extrude all the vertices up a little bit to kind of make the height of the cylinder. I'm just going to go also into side view and turn on wireframe so that I can see how high I'm making this. So I've got it selected. I'm going to hit E. I'm going to extrude up, and you can see it's making like a little cylinder shape. That looks good right there. And now if you go back into solid view, you'll see got a little, kind of like a little dial. I might bring that down just a little bit. Sure, right there. Okay, now in edit mode, you're gonna wanna go onto the kind of side. I'm gonna pick the side with a 15. It doesn't really matter too much. But you're gonna wanna go into face selection, which I still have turned on from before. And you're gonna select a few of the faces kind of right here along the side. And then we're going to extrude those out. So I'm going to hit E, and I'm going to lock it into the X plane so that it just kind of comes out at that angle. And let's make it go right there. Yeah. I'm also going to, just to make it look a little more pointed, I'm going to hit S to size them in a little bit. There we go. And if I go back to materials preview, it looks pretty cool. I like it. You can add a material to the spinner as well if you'd like, make it look kind of metallic. I'm going to save it, and we're going to add, as the last kind of piece to our image before we animate it, we're going to add the kind of lock part of the locker. So we're going to do this by adding a circle. I'm just going to go into wireframe view again so I can see it. So in edit mode, so I have to switch back to edit mode, don't have anything selected. I'm going to shift A, add a mesh circle. And then I'm going to rotate it so that it's kind of flat along the x-axis. So I'm going to hit RX, so that's rotate on the x-axis 90 degrees. And you can see it's kind of flattened out. I'm also going to size it right now just to about the thickness that I want my the handle of the lock to be, so maybe about there looks good. And then I'm going to grab it and I'm going to move it to right around here. This is going to be the base of what we're going to form the locker handle from. If I go into side view, I can also see it's not in line with a lock, so I'm just going to grab that. I hit G and Z, and I'm going to move it to about the center of my locker. That looks good right there. Okay, I'm going to save. Okay, now I'm going to go back into edit mode, and I'm going to hit E to extrude these vertices and bring them up to make kind of the long straight part of the locker there. Now this is when we're going to do another spin. We're going to spin this kind of halfway around to kind of make a half circle to extend this. But we're going to have to make it so it's going in the right direction. I'm just checking out my thing right there. That looks great. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to want to go and make this so that it's going to spin in around the right spot, basically. So in 7 view, I have to move the cursor before I do the spin. So you want to select your cursor and you want to move it to right on to the y-axis and kind of right across from where this guy is. And then so now, back to box selection, which doesn't matter because I'm going to spin. So if I go and click the spin button, I don't need 60 steps. I'm going to put it back to the default 9. But now, and I'm going to save it. And now if I start to extrude, you'll see it's going to go around that spot, but I only want to go about halfway. There we go. So I've made the curve part of my lock. I'm going to save it again. And I'll go back to my box selection. And now we can bring this part down by hitting E and bringing it down. Now this part of the locker handle you only want to bring to about here because eventually we're going to lift this all up and spin it around. So you want one side to be longer, one side to be shorter. That looks great. I'm going to really quickly add a material as well to it. You can as well if you'd like. So I'm just going to make this one make it similar color to the outside of the lock. And I'll make it metallic, less rough, more shiny. Okay. I'm also going to shade it smooth. So in object mode, right click, shade smooth. Beautiful. That looks great. Okay, so we've got our lock. Now we're going to animate it. I'm going to start by spinning this spinner. We're going to spin it around a couple times and spin it back, and then back one more time to a third number. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to lock in at frame 1. I'm going to rotate it back. Sorry, I changed it. I'm going to lock it in right there, pointing just straight out to the right. So I'm going to hit I, lock rotation scale. And then I'm going to turn on this little button here to record or auto keying. So basically just when I change it to frame 25, whatever I set it to, it's going to automatically record that for animation. So I went to frame 25. I'm going to hit R. And I'm going to rotate this guy around a couple times until I get to a number right about there. Then I'm going to go to frame 50. And I'm going to rotate it back the other way once. And twice. Set it there. And then I'm going to go to frame 75. And I'm going to rotate it around again. Sure, right about there. And I'll leave it there. Now see how it's made, it's automatically keyed in those selections. So if I go back to the beginning, you can see it's going to spin, it's going to spin, and it's going to spin. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to animate the top of the locker opening. So I'm going to go ahead and click on, I'm actually just going to turn off the auto keying for a minute. I'm going to click on the top of the lock, and I'm going to go to frame 100 if you're not there yet, frame 100. And we're going to lock that in right there. So I'm going to hit I, lock rotation scale, or location rotation scale, lock rot scale. Now I'm going to turn back on the auto keying. I'm going to go to frame 125. And I want to move this up so it's as if it's opening up. So I'm going to hit G and then Y, and then I'll bring it up to right about there. And since it's auto keying, I don't have to do anything. I'm going to go to frame 150. And I'm going to spin it around. So I'm going to hit R and Y, so it's just on the Y axis. And then I'm going to type in 180. R, Y, 180. There we go. And then I'm going to click, and that'll lock that in as a key at 150. I'm going to go to 175. And I'm going to do the same thing. R, Y, 180, and then I'll spin it back around. Hit enter. And then I'm going to go to frame 200. And I'm going to have it brought back down. So I'm going to go G, Y, bring it down. And enter. I'm going to turn off auto keying and let's see how this looks. It's spins. So I realized I have a little bit of a pause. I think I delayed the opening of the lock because we were at 75 when it should have opened. So what you can do there is you can select all these and you can drag them back like I'm going to. So I'm going to just click them, drag them. Let's have it right around there. Quick fix. There we go. Less of a pause there. There we go. So before you go to render, you're going to want to set up your camera. So the shortcut on Windows is Control Alt and 0. It's a little different on my Mac. So it should set it up kind of, so if you have it in a view you like, it'll set it up to kind of be there. And then what I like to do is turn on, if you open up your side toolbar, I just hit N to open that up. And you go to View, the View tab on the side. If you click Lock Camera to View, then when you scroll around and move around, your camera goes with your clicks. So I'm just going to go right here, angle it a little bit, center it a little bit. Now you'll notice I've got my locks kind of near the bottom because I want to make sure that I get the top of the lock opening when it opens up. There we go. See, we've got the whole lock. And I might just zoom out a little bit. Beautiful. So the camera's set up. If you can go into render view, you can make sure you've got enough lights. I'm just going to duplicate my light and add one over here. Maybe bring it up a little bit so it's shining more on it. Maybe duplicate another one. There, just moving the lights around a little bit. And then to render, don't forget there's 3 settings that you need to change. So you're going to go over to your output properties, this little thing that looks like a printer. You're going to change the end of your render to make sure it's at the end of your video. So my video ends at, what was it, 150 frames? 160, 175-ish. So I'm going to change my end to be at 175. Otherwise it could render too long and you just take so much more time. And then under output, you need to change the location and the name of it. So I'm going to save it into Blender Animations and I'm going to call it Locker and accept. That way it saves automatically into that folder once it's rendered. And then you have to change the file format to AVI JPEG. So those 3 things, change the end frames, and then change your name and location for saving, and change the file format to AVI JPEG. And yeah, we've got the camera set up, the light set up, everything works. So if you're going to render it, you would go to render animation. And it takes a while, but there you go. You've made a locker animation. Good job.